Have you ever read the classic Chinese novel Water Margin? If you have, then there's probably one thing that caught your attention. That is how many characters in the story are suspiciously good at martial arts. So much so that they're practically OP, and no, this is UND just because the book was written 1,000 years ago, when people had lower standards for physics and mathematics and whatnot. No, it is much more fun to imagine that these overpowered characters all belong to the same secret organization, who can somehow change the laws of physics whenever they want to. And once you start thinking about it, there are just so many suspicious coincidences that it makes total sense. Let me explain. To those not already in the know, Water Margin is a historical fiction novel set during the Song Dynasty. The story follows a group of outlaws known as the 108, Stars of Destiny led by the legendary hero Song Jiang. Together, they fight against the tyranny of the government and do good deeds, while also stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. Okay, wait a minute. What kind of a superpower do you have to possess to be able to steal from one of the richest men in China and get away with it? Coincidence? I think not. You see, the reason why these guys look like they got super strength is because they literally do have super strength. According to chapter 26 of the book, there's a rumor going around that the great hero Lu Junye has superhuman strength. He was able to run across the entire Yellow River holding a rock in each hand, drink up the water of a lake in one gulp, and lift up a huge boulder to use as a door. One time he even lifted his shirt to reveal a gigantic tattoo of an enormous tiger covering his entire back. Oh, and did I mention that he's a vegetarian? You see, rumors of Lu Zhishan as godly powers spread all the way to the imperial court, where the emperor himself became convinced that Lu Zhishan must be the reincarnation of a mythical hero named Lu Bu from the Three Kingdoms period. This is actually pretty funny because if you've watched our video about the most powerful characters in the Three Kingdoms, then you'll know that Lu Bu is arguably the most powerful character in all of Chinese history, maybe even the world. So the fact that there happens to be someone with the same name and possibly the same power in a completely different time period does seem a little too coincidental. But okay, maybe we could just chalk this up to having the same name and completely different characters. But what about the main protagonist of the whole story? I'm talking about Song Jiang, the leader of the 108 Stars of Destiny. It is heavily implied throughout the book that Song Jiang is destined to become an immortal. And if you do unbelieve me, just let me quote the book directly. In another 300 years, he will ascend to immortality. What? So this is clearly some kind of foreshadowing. But how could this be foreshadowing if the book was written hundreds of years before the current day? There is actually another theory that says the Water Margin was actually written in modern times but was simply disguised to look like an ancient text. We actually made a whole video discussing this crazy theory, so make sure to watch it after this one. Anyway, getting back to Song Jiang, he too has been rumored to be the reincarnation of a famous character from the Three Kingdoms period. This time it's Guan Yu. And this theory isn't just based on nothing. There are a lot of similarities between these two characters. For starters, both are experts in martial arts with supernatural strength. Both are loyal to their friends and would never betray them. Both are born as commoners but eventually become generals. And perhaps most importantly, both are really into drinking. In fact, there is a scene in the book where Song Jiang goes to a restaurant to buy alcohol and ends up picking a fight with the shopkeeper because he didn't like the quality of the wine. After knocking out the guy, he looks around and notices that he is surrounded by a bunch of other fighters who are clearly part of a gang. Now this doesn't seem like much of a coincidence, but it gets weirder. At this point, one of the other characters, Lin Chong, walks past the shop and sees Song Jiang standing over the unconscious body of the shopkeeper. Upon seeing this, he immediately takes off his official uniform and replaces it with a commoner's outfit. Why? Well, because he knows exactly who Song Jiang is, and he doesn't want to be associated with him. You see, Lin Chong also knows that Song Jiang is the reincarnation of Guan Yu, and because of this, he is afraid that Song Jiang might just kick him in the groin. Now this might sound ridiculous to you, but this actually makes total sense within the context of the story. You see, in the Water Margin universe, people have a saying, if you know your enemy, you know yourself. If you don't know your enemy, you're doomed to lose. And if you know yourself but not your enemy, you're also doomed to lose. But if you know both yourself and your enemy, then you're basically invincible. So knowing that Song Jiang is the reincarnation of Guan Yu, Lin Chong is able to better understand and predict Song Jiang's moves. And because of this, they end up becoming best friends and form a brotherhood together. And speaking of brotherhoods, did you know that there's actually a secret brotherhood hidden among the officials of the Song Dynasty? I bet you didn't even realize that there was a secret society in ancient China. These people were called the Heaven and Earth Society, and they believed that they were destined to overthrow the corrupt government and bring peace and prosperity back to the country. They believed that Song Jiang was the reincarnation of the god of war, and they followed him everywhere he went, doing his bidding. In fact, there is a scene in the book where Song Jiang is in the middle of a battle and suddenly he calls for a break. Of course, everyone is confused by this, but they all agree and put down their weapons. Just as Song Jiang is about to explain why they should stop fighting, a bolt of lightning strikes down from the sky and splits a nearby tree in half. Everyone is stunned by this, but Song Jiang tells him not to worry, because this is a sign from the gods telling them that they re on the right side of the battle. Yeah, I am not quite sure how splitting a tree with lightning is supposed to convince people that they re on the righteous side of a battle. But hey, what do I know? In all seriousness though, the Heaven and Earth Society was a real secret organization in ancient China, and their goals were actually pretty similar to those of the 108 Stars of Destiny. But what's most interesting is that the members of this organization were said to have superhuman powers, just like the heroes of the Water Margin. According to legend, they could control the weather, cure diseases with a single touch, and even raise the dead. Of course, these stories were likely exaggerated for a dramatic effect, but there may have been some truth to them after all. So what's the moral of the story here? Well, I guess it's that if you want to succeed in life, you need to find a good teacher. Now you may be wondering, who is my teacher? Well, it's none other than the great philosopher